All right, today we're going to tear down a huge myth about the workplace. And in the process, we're going to uncover this incredible communication tool that honestly, you probably already have, but just aren't using to its full potential. We are talking about the strategic power of silence. So let's do a little thought experiment. Picture yourself in a typical meeting, right? You're sitting at the conference table. Now look around that room, in your mind's eye. Who do you instinctively think holds the real power? Is it the one who's always first to jump in with an answer? You know, the person who can't stand a moment of quiet and just has to fill every little pause just to make sure their voice is heard. Well, what if I told you that's not always the case? In fact, the source material we're digging into today says that's often just plain wrong. The loudest person in the room, they aren't always the one with the real power. And we're about to find out exactly why. Okay, so that brings us to our first big idea, what we're calling the myth of the loudest. Look, we all know the culture we work in, right? It rewards being seen and being heard. We often mistake those quick opinions and that constant stream of talk for, competence or even intelligence. But that's a really dangerous mix-up. Because when we see someone being quiet, what's our first instinct? Our brain just jumps to these conclusions, doesn't it? We think, oh, they must be insecure, or they're just not confident. The source material is really clear on this. What looks like just sitting back and being passive is often something way, way more strategic. And that leads us perfectly into our next section, observe to understand better. This is where we completely flip the script on what silence means. It's not empty space. It's not a void. Think of it as a workshop for your brain, a place for some really active, deep processing. And this comparison here just lays it out so clearly. On one side, you've got reacting. That's all about speed. Quick opinions, talking just to be heard, basically just broadcasting what you already think you know. It's totally impulsive. But then, look at the other side, analyzing. This is a whole different game. It's about taking a moment to actually process information, listening, not just to reply, but to understand. It's where you start seeing the nuance and complexity. You stop broadcasting and start gathering intelligence. And this gets to the heart of it, what the source calls the silence of depth. I love that phrase. It's not emptiness, it's an active state. It's the moment you use to untangle complexity, to pick up on what's not being said. You know, the tone of voice, the body language, that's where you figure out what's really driving people. It's like while everyone else is putting on a performance, the quiet person is the one who's actually learning. Okay, but this is a really, really important point we need to make here in our next section. Strategic silence versus fear. Because let's be real, not all silence is this powerful strategic tool. Sometimes it's just fear. And knowing the difference is absolutely crucial. So let's break this down. Fearful silence, that's when you're just enduring the meeting. You're hiding. You're filled with self-doubt. You have something to say, but you just feel like you can't. Strategic silence is the complete opposite. It's an active, powerful choice. You're choosing to observe. You're choosing to wait for clarity before you just add more noise to the conversation. You're not shrinking away, you're being discerning. Big difference. So you might be thinking, okay, that sounds great, but how do I actually do it? Well, the source gives us this awesome framework based on 3 simple choices. First, choose observation over impulse. Just watch. Second, choose clarity over noise. Wait for the real signal. And third, and this one is everything, choose the right timing over the desperate need for attention. See? It's not just about being quiet for the sake of it. It's about being incredibly intentional. All right, and this is where it all comes together. This is the payoff. Our next section is called the power of rare words. So why is this strategy so darn effective? It boils down to one of the most basic principles in the world. Scarcity creates value. I mean, this chart just says it all, doesn't it? Think about that person who never stops talking. After a while, their words just become background noise, right? The value, the impact, it's super low. But now, think about the person who speaks maybe once or twice in a whole meeting. When they do, their words are targeted, they're thoughtful, and the impact is through the roof. Every word carries so much more weight. And there's this fantastic quote from the source that just captures this perfectly. When someone who usually listens finally speaks, people lean in to listen. Just let that sink in for a second. That's real power. You're commanding the room not with volume, but with the sheer value and rarity of your contribution. Okay, let's wrap this all up. In our final section, we're gonna reframe this whole idea. We're calling it your silent superpower. And seriously, if you've ever felt like you were underestimated just because you weren't the loudest person in the room, then you need to hear this. Look, let's be real. Noise gets attention. It absolutely does. If you're loud, people will notice you, no doubt about it. But attention is fleeting. Depth earns respect. And if you're playing the long game, as a leader, as a professional, which one do you think is going to build real, lasting influence? Which one is your true competitive advantage? So here's the bottom line, the big takeaway from all this. Your strength isn't measured by how loud you are. You absolutely do not need to fight to be heard over every other voice. You don't have to have an instant reaction for everything just to prove you deserve a seat at the table. Because your real power, it's in the choice. The choice to listen, the choice to analyze, and the choice to use your voice only when it truly matters. So I want to leave you with this question to think about. The next time you're in a meeting or any kind of important conversation, ask yourself, what will you choose to say? And maybe even more powerfully, what will you choose not to say?